Welcome to 10,000 Worlds, written and read by Weston Gill. That's me. This is part 7, covering the next 10 chapters of the story. If you're new, you may want to start back at the beginning. Otherwise, welcome back, and let's continue. Chapter 61, Reasons. Rylan pushed through the door and found the small band of seated children huddled close, whispering with the furtive energy of rebellion. Every head snapped towards him as he stalked forward. They had the unmistakable posture of early mutiny. Fear, suspicion, fragile bravado. Rylan intended to crush it before it grew teeth. You know why I chose your world, why I brought the Shaper's attention to it, why Earth, of all places, became my battlefield? He turned deliberately, meeting each of their eyes before fixing his attention on Liz. Listen carefully. Earth is a tragedy of wasted potential, a world overflowing with brilliance, creativity, possibility, and yet you bury it under systems designed to keep you obedient, exhausted, grateful for crumbs. You have minds capable of reshaping galaxies, but you train your children to sit still, memorize, and obey. Obedience before curiosity, compliance before imagination. You punish the spark that makes a person exceptional, and then you wonder why your leaders are small people with smaller ideas, and you worship pettiness and insecurity. Rylan began pacing slowly, the room tightening around his words, as if pulled by gravity. Your societies could feed every hungry mouth 10 times over, yet millions starve so a handful can live in palaces. You build machines that could lift the burdens of the world. Then you aim them at one another out of fear or greed or pride. You have empathy written into your bones, and yet you fight each other. For entertainment, politically, socially, spiritually, you glorify those who take and shame those who need. You were taught to admire winners, not wisdom, to defend flags, not futures, to fear kindness more than cruelty. He stopped pacing and turned fully towards them. But none of that is why I chose Earth. No, I chose it because your people are defiant. Not noble, not united, defiant. Pathologically resistant to being ruled, guided, or even helped. You question every miracle, every gift, every authority. You rebel on instinct, even against things meant to save you. You don't trust your leaders, your friends, your enemies, and you barely trust yourselves or each other. And that, strange as it sounds, is your greatest strength. He rested his gaze on Liz, and then Nina, and then through the others in turn. A world full of disciplined essence wielders could never do what a handful of you can achieve simply by refusing to accept the narrative you're handed. The Shapers rely on obedience, on predictability, on populations too grateful or too frightened to ask the wrong questions. You ask every wrong question, never having been taught to learn how or why to ask. You second-guess good fortune coming from a sea of endless turmoil. You slap away helping hands because you could never learn to trust. You challenge power even when you have none. To the Shapers, Earth is a nuisance. To me, it is a weapon. A defiant world cannot be quietly conquered. A suspicious world cannot be easily manipulated. A chaotic, questioning, argumentative world can fracture an empire built on unquestioned authority. His eyes sharpened as he gazed over the children. I chose Earth because its people will not kneel. Not to me, not to the Shapers, not to anyone. You are difficult, contradictory, and self-destructive. But in the face of tyranny, nothing in the universe is more dangerous than a human who refuses to accept the things must stay the way they are. That is why this is the world I need, and why you are the ones I chose to stand beside me. He held each of their gazes long enough to make them flinch. When his eyes met Liz, she stepped back from the intensity. Rylan allowed himself a small grin, then slipped through the fabric of the world before any of them could gather enough courage to challenge him. He emerged in the Essence Well beside Vuette's camp. "Vuette?" Rylan called. "Yes," her voice answered easily from behind him. Rylan turned to see her seated cross-legged, staring up at him. He shook his head once. "Where is Aaron?" "He is running," Vuette said, eyes still closed. Rylan lowered himself to the ground across from her, settling into the same posture. "If we have time, you can have the answers that you're burning for." Vuette's eyes snapped open, narrowing. No lies? Rylan shook his head. None. No half-truths? No half-truths, he repeated. Fouette studied him for a long time, a heavy stretch of silence. Tell me you're still considering all the people, she said quietly, rising to her feet as intensity sharpened her voice. Tell me this isn't vengeance or retribution. Tell me we're not doing harm on purpose. Rylan let out a relieved breath, offering a warm smile. This was never revenge. The only thing that matters is stopping the Shapers from sending more worlds to the Noctium. Are you going to gather the rest of the children from Earth? Fouette pressed. Rylan's expression dimmed. No, the Shapers know me too well. Our odds are already low. If they detect me, everything falls apart, no matter how well our plans are crafted. Fouette took a slow breath and nodded. I will choose to trust you, friend. Rylan returned the nod. Thank you, Fouette. Then, his head tilted, brow creasing. Why haven't you returned to Sanctuary? Fouette's shoulders tightened, shame creeping over her. The girl with the voice commanded me to look after Aaron. She shuddered slightly, feeling the lingering thread of the command in her essence. Rylan, the seeds of power you gave them, they're too much. Rylan's face hardened with concern. War demands weapons capable of fighting it. Fouette met his eyes again, a flicker of doubt there. She wondered, for a breath, whether she had misjudged her friend, then forced the thought away. I swear to you, Fouette, Rylan said softly, I have not lost the path. Not yet. I only worry you can't see the path clearly anymore. Her voice was gentle and pained. Rylan nodded once. That is why I have you. Chapter 62, Conspicuous. Emily, Jake said shyly, we can't drive this. Emily narrowed her eyes. It's my car, Jake. It's my only car. It's hot pink, Jake countered, finding his strength, hands planted on his hips, like a tiny, exasperated parent. So? Emily shot back. So, there are police looking for us. You want to cruise around in the most recognizable car in the city? A car you could spot from orbit? A car that screams, look at me, like a neon flamingo? Emily's glare softened into mortified recognition. Shit, dang, darn, whatever. You can say shit. I'm a junior in high school. I've heard worse in the cafeteria. Jake rolled his eyes. Emily inhaled sharply. It's still my only car. Does Aaron have one? Jake asked. Emily thought for a beat. He told me it was dead. Then her expression snapped into sudden clarity. Jerome, he drives a nice truck, and I know exactly where we're hiding. Jake squinted at her. Is it less conspicuous than the awesome mansion I found and your Barbie dream car? Yes, Jake, Emily muttered. It's safe, and we'll grab food on the way. She marched back inside, yelling something he couldn't quite make out. Jake followed and found her dragging a bike down the hallway. Jerome's house is close, Emily explained, adjusting the handlebars, but I'll need you to watch for Ghent and the police. Jake winced. I know where Jerome's house is, his voice cracked. I think I'm the reason Ghent found him. Emily froze. Then she sighed, leaned the bike against the wall, and crossed the room to him. She pulled him into a tight hug. What Ghent did isn't your fault, she said softly, and then she caught herself. But she didn't let go. Jake sniffed and hugged her back. We should go. Police are heading this way. They separated, Emily giving his shoulder one last reassuring squeeze. Then they were out the door, Emily pushing the bike, Jake close behind. The ride was short, despite the winding path Jake chose, steering her through back streets and a park to avoid patrol cars. They made good time. Jerome's front door was closed but unlocked. They searched only for a few minutes before finding keys to his truck, a dark mid-size model that blended perfectly with 1,000 others in the city. It wouldn't be reported stolen for months, maybe ever. Jerome really didn't have any family, Emily said, except us. No one will notice he's gone for a long time. Jake climbed into the passenger seat, hesitating before speaking himself. Sorry, Jerome is dead. Emily swallowed. Me too. They drove across town in silence. At the discount bulk store, they walked the aisles, saying little, Emily thinking only of survival, Jake trying desperately not to ask for every sugar-based item he saw. She arranged delivery of several bunk beds and a couch. She hadn't seen the house's interior, but knew they'd need something. Once loaded and back on the road, Emily finally asked, "What are we going to do to find the others, Jake?" Jake perked up a little. "Honestly, I think I might have already found them. I just didn't realize it at the time." Emily shot him a confused look. "It's not like people advertise they have abilities," Jake said defensively. "We don't wear capes or name tags." "So how do you know you found them then?" Emily asked. Jake tapped his temples. "I think some part of me just knows. I see people, dozens, when I concentrate. They flash through my head in a loop. I just never realized that they were wizards until I met you and Aaron." Emily stared, half in awe, half terrified of how powerful he might actually be. "I don't know what they can do," Jake continued, warming to his own plan, "but we can test it by going to meet them." "And meeting them proves what exactly?" Emily asked. "Will they be wearing capes?" Jake grinned. "If we tell them we're wizards, they'll think we're insane, or they'll get curious how we know." "I don't know if that's how it works, Jake." "It will be if you tell them to be honest with us." He fully turned towards her, beaming with confidence only a kid could have in a horrifying situation. Emily couldn't help it. She grinned too. For the first time in days, she dared to hope their plan might actually work. Chapter 63, The Cost of Knowing. Orla walked for well over an hour, letting her feet set the rhythm her mind could follow. She had friends in Sanctuary, plenty of them, but none she trusted with what Rylan had revealed. Not this. Not a secret powerful enough to buy a favor with the Shapers, or doom a man who had already been declared dead by the only organization capable of rewriting Sanctuary's laws. Two people knew Ryland's entire plan, and she was the second. She kept turning the knowledge over in her mind like a blade testing its own edge. She wanted to be the person who saw Ryland's vision come to fruition. She wanted to stand on the moral high ground she'd spent decades building, protecting worlds, not exploiting them. With the lure of handing his secrets to the Shapers and rising to unimaginable heights, she was not immune to that temptation either. Fortunately, she had time to consider. She returned to the compound and found the children of Earth gathered around a table, sharing a freshly cooked meal. The Vordran, Click Click, was serving them. His black-on-black shell and deep clicking voice stood out even among the strangeness of Sanctuary. Orla found herself wondering why Vordran would willingly ally with a fugitive shaper like Rylan, why this creature of all beings would choose this side of a war. She dismissed the thought and approached. "Vordran," she announced. "Click, click, where is Rylan?" Click, click responded in his native tongue, sharp clicks and stuttering tones. Orla's shadow creature perched on her shoulder repeated the translation in a whispering hum. "He does not know." Orla's eyes swept across the table of clueless young adepts, chewing, talking, laughing, utterly unaware of the unimaginable conflict about to swallow them whole. She felt a surge of moral discomfort. Was it right to let them march blindly towards a war they did not understand? Minor roles, she told herself, but not unimportant. "Orla," Liz called between bites, "will you teach us about magic?" Orla mastered her expression before turning to the girl. "That is not my role here." "What would it take for you to teach?" Liz paused, choosing her words carefully. "All of us." Orla caught the pause immediately. Liz did not see the group as us, not at all. "A miracle?" Orla answered. Liz clearly hated that response, but hid it behind another bite of food. Orla turned to leave and nearly collided with Rylan. She flinched as the ripples of dimensional essence peeled away from him. "Rylan?" she greeted, forcing calm. "Judge?" he replied, gaze narrowed. "Suspicious, are we?" she asked slightly. "I thought you'd deliberate longer," he said. "I will," Orla corrected, "but a few hours is enough for me to decide where I stand for the moment." Rylan frowned. "A few hours?" "Yes," she said. Her pulse quickened with dread she didn't yet understand. "Why is that surprising?" "Walk with me," Rylan said. They stepped out into the district streets. Only when they'd put distance between themselves and the adepts did Orla speak. "What happened, Rylan?" "The essence wells show a strong time dilation effect," he said quietly. "Stronger than I realized or accounted for." Orla's eyes widened. "How strong? How long was I gone?" he asked. Nearly 2 span, maybe slightly less, she said. Rylan nodded grimly. I was there for under 15 minutes. Time flows at least eightfold slower inside the wells. Orla turned sharply to him, shock plain on her face. The secrets of the universe were unfolding too fast, too violently. The Shapers must know, Rylan said. They must use that. Gives them another advantage among their many. I'm sure it troubles you more than me, Orla muttered. She wondered quietly, dangerously, if she could angle to accompany him there. But if Rylan disappeared with the adepts, she'd remain in Sanctuary alone, left with temptation curling through her mind like smoke. You want to come with us, Rylan said, reading her. Orla sighed. You're a dangerous man, Rylan. Everyone is dangerous, Rylan replied. Some just understand the depth of it more than others. What happens if I choose not to go? She asked. What are the consequences of knowing what I know? Rylan grinned. You're going to help. I cannot risk a judge with your knowledge sitting idle in a city full of Shaper influence. For a heartbeat, Orla considered attacking him, testing her strength against his. She felt the faintest spark of curiosity, but overshadowing that was something else. The realization that she could help him, that she should probably help him. You're not going to fight me? Rylan asked, genuinely curious. Orla simply shook her head. You've made your choice, then, he asked, astonished. The universe makes choices for us when we're too weak to make them on our own, Orla said softly. She felt the pull of something larger than herself. Grand essence guiding her steps. Send me to the wells, Rylan. She didn't even have time to blink. Sanctuary dissolved. The crystalline caverns rose around her, glowing, endless, and impossible. A creature sat watching her, thick fur shimmering through shifting colors under the crystal light, pointed ears flattened, trying to mimic a human shape, her head cocked in curiosity. A judge? Fouette said calmly. A sanctuary judge? Her eyes narrowed. Did you decide to betray Rylan, or has something happened? Orla smiled, small and certain. Something happened. Chapter 64. Well overdue. Mora's daily responsibilities expanded rapidly as Shaper operations on Earth moved beyond planning and into execution. Hours were swallowed by briefings. Team leaders, regional commanders, field analysts, all scattered across the planet, and every meeting brought the same conclusion. Earth was far worse than their initial estimates. The societies were fractured, the people were distrustful of aid, suspicious of authority, hostile to the point of idiocy. Her headache, always present in the early stages of an incursion, had grown into sharp, pulsing pain behind her temples. She caught herself rubbing them in meetings, unable to stop, even when she noticed subordinates watching. Government notifications would start soon. She prayed they'd proceed smoothly, though Earth's history suggested otherwise. She planned to lead the United States revelation herself, partly to set the tone, partly so she wouldn't lose her mind sitting behind another console. What did you say? She asked automatically. European project scientist's update finally pierced through her consciousness. Ma'am, the essence flood is progressing faster than our initial progressions. Mora straightened. How much faster? Our readings show 0.1 saturation, increasing incrementally between portal bursts. Her eyes narrowed. Surely you misspoke. You meant 0.01? He paled. No, ma'am. Someone off-screen caught his attention. He nodded to them, then returned to her. Revised timelines show 7.25 years. 7.25? Mora didn't bother hiding her shock. That is the shortest incursion timeline we've ever recorded. Yes, ma'am. Some worlds appear anomalous in their saturation response. We expect to learn much from Earth's adjustment phases. Mora glared at the man, not because she blamed him, but because she already suspected exactly why Earth was behaving anomalously. The poor scientist misread her expression. He shifted uncomfortably, searching for help among the staff behind him, but finding none. We advise finalizing incursion plans and proceeding with revelations within 3 months, he finished. His swallow was audible through the speaker. 3 months, Mora repeated. That is the shortest execution window by more than half. Her fingers found her temples again. I want confirmation of what is causing such saturation on a bound world. You have 30 days to investigate. I will push up our timelines, but you will give me my answers. She closed the feed and began pacing. System, call council, and rewrite incursion plans for 30, 60, and 300 days. Meeting in 1 hour. Commander, the system replied, incursion plans will experience unacceptable reductions in efficacy if condensed to these windows. Noted, present all projections in an hour. Mora left the room in search of food and stimulants, though she suspected neither would help her headache. An hour later, the conference chamber lit with holographic projections as the council appeared. Greetings, Mora began. Earth's essence saturation rate is the fastest we've encountered. Our incursion timeline must be accelerated. A painfully slender man, so tall his projection had to compress him, spoke first. Alervong, Sanctuary. Commander, what is the shortest projection to Noctium? 5 years, Mora answered simply. The council members turned away from their cameras, conferring with unseen advisors, their silhouettes flailed in silent debate. Achilles Yair, Boris 1. Have these projections been confirmed? I would not present them otherwise, Mora answered. The man turned abruptly and began muttering. A slur escaped before his mic auto-muted. Lamet Ni Pa, Sanctuary. Commander, are you recommending aborting this incursion? No, we recommend an abridged insertion and recruitment protocol, 30, 60, 300 days. A voice she did not recognize cut in with less formality. Less than a Terran year? Yes, Mora replied, still searching for who had spoken. Alervong, this is half the duration of any previous incursion, is it not? Our shortest was Ethis, 2 full cycles, Mora said. Earth is unprecedented. Do you have recruitment and well stability projections then? Vong asked. Well stability is undetermined. Recruitment projections have been sent. A pause, and then, Commander, does this increase the likelihood of self-annihilation among Earth's denizens? Mora almost laughed. No, sir. Earth is already on the verge of multiple self-inflicted apocalypses. Without intervention, one is likely to occur within our window. Muted debate erupted again across all screens. Loric Star, Orden. Call a vote. Orden supports proceeding with Mora retaining full command. Voting lights flashed. Linamos 5's intelligence displayed the count for Mora to read. 11 for, 4 against, 3 abstaining. Mora retained command. Another vote was called. Alervong, Sanctuary. Call a vote. Full evaluation of Earth as the next Essence Well world. The vote went surprisingly fast. 17 in favor, 1 abstention. Mora felt a thrill of satisfaction and dread. Earth would become a well, and she would be the one to oversee its transition. She wondered if that was exactly what Rylan had intended when he led the Shapers to this world. Mora, Incursion Command, Linamos 5. Command accepted. Proceeding with incursion of Earth. Meeting adjourned. The projections flickered out. Mora stood alone. She had troops to request, schedules to rewrite, and a planet to subdue. And there was no time left to waste. Chapter 65, Learning to Learn. Phyllis sat on the metal table with her heavy robes draped around her legs, tank top loose on her shoulders, posture annoyingly relaxed. Fluette paced in slow circles like a lion, keeping herself calm. Rylan watched from the very back, hands clasped behind him, wearing an expression that said he was fully prepared to watch his students implode. Didn't take long. Liz, always the boldest, finally reached her breaking point. Are you going to teach us magic now? Arms crossed, chin up, on edge. Fluette shot her a look but stayed silent, still arranging her thoughts. Rylan grinned and Orla's eye twitched. Well? Liz demanded. Orla hopped off the table, stretching lazily like she had all the time in the universe. You brought us here to learn magic, didn't you? Liz pressed, stepping forward as if she dared them to challenge her. Around her, the other students shifted, nervous, hopeful, curious, intimidated, but saying nothing. First, Fluette said, locking eyes with Liz, we have to teach you how to learn all over again. We're adults, Liz shot back. We know how to learn. Orla shook her head. It's not math, Elizabeth. Liz rounded on her. You said you weren't going to teach us. You said that wasn't your role. I said it would take a miracle for me to teach you, Orla corrected calmly. Liz's jaw clenched. So, has there been a miracle? For you, yes, Orla admitted without hesitation. Liz's frustration exploded across her expression. Then teach me, Orla sighed, patient, exasperated, a teacher tired before the class even began. You don't learn to wield essence like you learn multiplication. Your body, your cells, connects to the energy around you in a way that is unique to you, personal, innate. What does that even mean? Liz cut in. Brewett's voice sharpened. Just listen. What it means, Orla continued, addressing all of them now, is that two people with nearly identical gifts will wield essence in completely different and unique ways. There are only a handful of universal truths: discipline, exercise, meditation, testing your limits. Beyond that, she tapped her temple. Magic isn't memorized, it's felt, it's explored, it's discovered. It's very personal. Liz huffed, frustrated, but didn't interrupt again. Liz, Orla said, stepping close, you have to learn how to learn. If you cling to the illusion that you already know how this works, your failures are going to crush you. We're not children, Liz whispered angrily, so stop treating us like kids. And stop acting like them, Orla snapped back. You think an hour or a day with us will make you masters? That will hand you a spell book and you'll memorize your way into power? It does not work like that. Roulette stepped forward, voice calm but firm. There are people in Sanctuary who can barely tie their own shoes, who wield essence with terrifying skill. They aren't brilliant, they're not disciplined, but they understand themselves in a way that you haven't begun to. That's what you're being taught. Not spells, not formula. You're learning about yourself. Orla angled toward Liz again. We can give you tools. That's it. What you uncover is entirely your own journey. Some of the recruits nodded, finally understanding. Liz still looked lost, angry, and defensive. So Orla made a choice. A sudden wind whipped through the cavern like a summoned storm. It curled around Orla's body, her hair whipping in a chaotic halo. The air bent beneath her, lifting her off the ground as if the world itself bowed to her will. Liz's eyes went wide, her jaw fell open. So? Orla's voice echoed strangely, braided with the wind itself. Float on the wind, Elizabeth. Follow my example. I've shown you one result, so do it. I can't, Liz stammered. Why not? The wind itself roared. Liz looked to her classmates for any hint of rescue, but none of them met her eyes. They stared upward, awestruck. Orla lowered herself gently to the stone floor. Her hair settled, the winds calmed. You think my magic is stronger, Orla said softly. You think I can do this because I'm better than you. But you can't copy me because you're not me. You're trying to play my song without knowing your own instrument. Bouette stepped forward, building on the idea. Magic is like music, she said. Every one of you is born with a different instrument. Some of you are violins, capable of sharp, piercing control. Some of you are drums, raw power and momentum. Some of you are flutes, subtle, precise, emotional. She gestured at the whole room. We cannot replace your instruments. We cannot play the song for you. We cannot hand you a sheet of music and expect you to know it. Bouette's voice grew stronger and more urgent. What we can do is teach you rhythm, teach you breathing, teach you how to listen, how to hear the first notes of your own power. But the melody, the composition, the mastery, she tapped Liz's chest. That comes from you, only you. The room went still, thoughtful. A few students nodded in genuine understanding. Liz looked hurt, but also scared and vulnerable. What if, her voice wavered, what if we can't learn? What if we're tone deaf? Or we don't have an instrument at all? Orla stepped close again, her expression softening for the first time. Everyone can learn. Everyone. Some take longer. Some need to find the right rhythm. But every soul has its own song. Liz swallowed hard. Everyone? Orla nodded. Yes, Liz. Even you. Chapter 66. A Bit of Luck. Emily? Jake leaned forward in his seat as the truck rolled to a stop. Somebody lives here. The beige two-story sat in a perfect upper middle class camouflage, flanked by two identical homes and framed by a lawn that screamed HOA-approved mediocrity. The only car in the driveway besides Jerome's borrowed truck was a fading red sedan with sunburnt paint. Ordinary, forgettable. Inside, though, well, Jake had never seen decor so aggressively generic. Through the window of his mind, he could see "Live, Laugh, Love" sign over the sink, a family stencil in black script over the living room archway, a coffee pun hanging beside the oven, so painfully unfunny he felt secondhand embarrassment. No photos, no mementos, no personal touches, just the visual equivalent of elevator music. And then there was the woman. She looked exactly like someone who would own that decor. Early 30s, brown ponytail, glasses, hoodie and sweatpants, despite the warm evening air. She was plating a pre-made dinner tray, giggling at something on the TV. Jake shivered. It felt like they were walking into a simulation running on low creativity settings. "Emily?" Jake said again as they stepped out of the truck. "You definitely know someone lives here, right?" Emily only smirked. Jake grabbed her arm. Seriously, whose house is this?" Emily drug him to the door and rang the bell. A moment later, the mystery woman opened the door, confusion smothering her features like a ripple on still water. "Hello?" she asked, voice soft and bewildered. Emily didn't hesitate. "Don't close the door. Listen carefully." She placed her hand on the woman's shoulder with practiced ease. Jake felt the command ripple outward, subtle and warm, like a draft through an open window. "We're going to stay with you for a while," Emily continued, "and if anyone comes looking for us, you're going to tell them no one else lives here and that we're not here." The woman blinked, confusion folding into acceptance almost instantly. "Okay, come in," Jake whispered. "Emily?" But she was already walking past the girl like she owned the place herself. "Jake, grab our bags," Emily said over her shoulder. "Everything. Bring it inside." Jake found himself moving automatically, yet not unwillingly, towards the truck. Inside, Emily settled onto the couch like she'd lived there for years. The girl hovered nearby, still a little lost. "Do you live here alone?" Emily asked. "Yeah," the girl replied. "And what's your name?" "Stephanie?" "Hey, Stephanie," Emily said warmly. "Hey," Stephanie echoed, studying Emily with the gentle confusion of someone trying to decide whether they're dreaming or not. "We're hiding from a monster," Emily said matter-of-factly, "and we need your help. And you're gonna enjoy helping us, actually." Jake walked in with a box of groceries. Stephanie smiled at him. "That's Jake," Emily introduced. "Oh, hey, Jake." "Hey," he called back, moving quickly to the kitchen and then back outside. "Stephanie," Emily continued, "this house is pretty big for one person. Do you get much company? People come by often?" "Not really." Stephanie looked embarrassed. "Kind of seeing someone, but it's an on again, off again thing, mostly off." "And do you like him?" Emily asked. Stephanie's face flushed. "More than he likes me, I think." Emily gave her a sympathetic look. "I'm sorry, but you need to break it off completely. Text him that you met someone else." Stephanie didn't hesitate. She retrieved her phone from the little entry table, a perfectly placed bowl with keys sat next to it. A neatly stacked pile of mail, another generic art print about smiling at strangers. She looked at Emily for guidance. "Text or call?" "Text," Emily said. Stephanie typed with surprising speed, then hit send. Jake passed again with another box. Emily leaned forward. "Stephanie, what I'm about to tell you gets strange, very strange, and dangerous. I need you to choose how much you actually want to know." Stephanie nodded slowly. "Can you give me some of the basics first, and I can decide as you go?" "All right," Emily inhaled. "There are people with abilities, powers that feel like magic. There's a monster hunting them, hunting us. We need a place to hide. And this is my brother's rental, and you're living here, so we're staying with you." Stephanie's eyes widened, not in fear, but in awe. "You believe me?" Emily asked, genuinely startled. Stephanie nodded vigorously. "Why?" Emily asked. Most people don't just accept this so quickly. Stephanie licked her lips, nervous. I'm really lucky. Jake and Emily exchanged a subtle glance as Jake passed through the living room again. No, Stephanie rushed. I mean, really lucky. She took a breath. A few years ago, things just started happening. I won a car at a casino downtown just after going inside. Emily blinked. Okay. But then I owed thousands of dollars in taxes, and I won $10,000 on scratchers before the bill came due, Stephanie said, shrugging helplessly. Emily glanced towards the beat up sedan in the driveway, thrown off by her admission. Stephanie noticed. Oh, I sold the car a while back. It paid for 6 months' rent here. But after I sold it, I won a small lottery while on a girls' trip, just over $1 million. Emily stared. Why rent if you could just buy a house then? Stephanie brightened. I guess because I was supposed to stay here? I didn't realize that until just now. But yeah, I felt like something important was going to happen here. Like I needed to be here for some reason. Jake froze mid-step with a box in his hands. Emily leaned forward. What else? Stephanie started talking faster, almost breathless. I find money constantly. $20 bills, 50s every once in a while. My ex, I found out he was using dating apps the same day he downloaded them. A friend saw the notification randomly and called me. Stephanie's hands flailed enthusiastically. I kicked him out and kept the stuff he left behind and sold it at a yard sale. A guy offered me $500 for a pair of sneakers. I didn't bother pricing anything. I just assumed I knew what I had. Her excitement built, almost musical. And little things too. Always getting the last appointment slot when I need it, always winning raffles, always, well, everything. Just things go my way. It feels like the universe keeps nudging me towards something. Emily's mouth hung open. That's better than luck. No, Jake said, sitting the final box down. That's someone with power. He grinned at Stephanie, and I think we seriously need you. Emily nodded, smiling wide. Stephanie, we have a lot more to talk about. Chapter 67, Solitude. Aaron had spoken very little since the others had arrived in the caverns. He had carved out small, private space, as far from everyone else as he could manage, close enough to hear the voices if he needed to, far enough that no one would casually sit beside him. He spent most of his time there, turning over half-formed thoughts and trying to anchor himself to anything that felt normal. Huet had told him he was likely in shock, that the compulsion he'd experienced on Earth could linger, especially when layered over fear and exhaustion. Aaron nodded when she explained it, though the words slid through him like water through a sieve. Most days he felt like he was watching a very vivid movie, a life played out on screen where he vaguely recognized the characters but couldn't remember auditioning for a role or becoming involved. When he tried to recall who he'd been before, his routines, his habits, even his own preferences, the memories blurred and lost detail. Sometimes he wondered if he'd been in an accident, if this was a coma dream. He liked the thought of that. It meant there was still a hospital somewhere, a bed, a waking moment waiting for him. Normal. Somewhere beyond this, he would find normal. Each day that passed made that hope thinner, dimmer. Sometimes he found himself crying without realizing when it started, thinking about work, about Emily, about the small, dull irritations of a normal life he could gladly take back in exchange for this impossible place. At first, he ran because he was told to. Now, he ran whenever he couldn't focus, whenever the dream seemed too much. Just a short time ago, Rylan and Vuet had been speaking about him as though he weren't there. To be fair, Aaron wasn't sure he had been. He replayed their voices as his feet carried him down the endless halls. I don't know, Ry. It seems like it's getting worse, Vuet had said, her alien eyes scanning him like she was searching for an invisible wound. You said he seemed normal when you spoke with him, Rylan replied, studying Aaron. Same way. Sometimes he does, Vuet said. Sometimes he understands everything, and then he just vanishes, like this. She gestured vaguely at him. We should get him an experienced healer, Rylan offered. He needs to be purged, Fouette said firmly. She probably layered dozens of commands over one another. That's overlap, dissonance. There's bound to be problems. She didn't really know what she was doing, Rylan said. She needs training more than the rest. Purge us both, Fouette insisted. I'll go back and get her. Aaron remembers standing there, listening and understanding none of it. It wasn't like hearing a foreign language. It was like trying to decipher a foreign alphabet, something fundamentally incompatible with his understanding. It's not that simple, Rylan had said. A purge might work, and it would draw attention we can't afford. Fouette had sagged then, like someone carrying weight too long. Once we return, Rylan said gently, your mind will be clear. You'll be free to deal with Emily however we decide. That could be months, Fouette replied. Years. I still feel like a prisoner to her command. I'd step in front of an unknown beast for Aaron right now, and I'm actively filtering my essence. That had been when Aaron turned away and started running, when everything felt wrong, when thoughts spiraled, when conversations bent toward magic or essence or things that he just didn't grasp. He ran. It was the only thing that anchored him to his body, to movement, the pain he could understand. Liz had tried to talk to him once. He said hi and just walked away. Nina tried more than once. Never meant for this to happen, she had said, voice shaking. For what to happen? Aaron had asked, genuinely confused. She gestured helplessly. The bar, Liz, another world, magic. Not your fault, he said simply. The words sounded right, but they didn't feel complete. There was something else he wanted to say, something important, but it sat locked away behind layers of fog he couldn't push through. Nina lingered, hoping he'd reach out. He wanted to reach out. He just couldn't. He wanted another date, a quiet one. No lays, no interruptions, just laughter and some normalcy. Instead, he turned away from her and he ran. He ran more than half of his days away now. When his legs burned, when his shins screamed, when sweat soaked through his clothes, he ran harder. Pain was clean. Pain made sense. Eventually, he stopped, hands braced on his knees, breath ragged. He screamed down the empty corridor, the sound tearing out of him raw and uncontrolled. He didn't care who heard. He wanted his life back. He wanted everything to be normal again. He wanted to box orders with Emily, to obsess over investments, to complain about work, to sleep in a normal bed and wake up knowing what day it was. Something caught his attention in the darkness ahead, just a flicker, a ripple, like something swimming just beyond the edge of his sight. Aaron jerked towards it. He screamed again, whether to scare it away or to draw it closer, he didn't really know. Nothing answered. After a long minute, he turned and ran back towards camp. He didn't know how far he'd gone. He didn't know how long he'd stayed. He didn't know anything anymore. And the worst part, the part that scared him more than the caverns, the magic, or the strangers, was that he was beginning to wonder if he would ever know anything again. Chapter 68, Complications Solved. I need to return to Sanctuary, Orla said at last. It had been 3 days since the group arrived in the Essence Wells. The initial awe had worn thin, replaced by the slow realization of what was truly unfolding here. Orla had responsibilities she could not abandon without consequences. Threads she needed to tie off before they strangled everything Rylan was attempting. Rylan paced in slow, thoughtful circles as he considered the request. Kidnapping a judge, even willingly, was no trivial act. Sanctuary was not a soft city, and it possessed weapons far subtler and more dangerous than armies. How long will you need? He asked carefully. A day, 2 at most, Orla replied. I can bring back a healer, a purging specialist, for Fouette and Aaron. Rylan stopped pacing. Actually, he said evenly, I think we're going to move Nina into advanced work. Orla blinked. You're joking. She barely understands she has abilities. And you want her performing some of the most complex healing there is? Fouette placed a gentle hand on Orla's shoulder and forced a reassuring smile. We don't have years, not even with the wells. Fouette hesitated. They all need work. that will push them far beyond normal limits. That's not training, Orla snapped. That's recklessness. They're still learning basic manipulation, Orla pressed. And you want miracles? Brett exhaled slowly. Rylan stepped in. She knows Aaron better than almost anyone else here. She healed his bones, his feet. Since then, he's been more present. More present? Orla echoed sharply. He drifts out of conversations mid-sentence. His mind shuts down the moment essence is mentioned. That's not recovery. That's barely functional consciousness. A day ago, Wet said quietly, he wasn't conscious most of the time. Oh, well then, Orla threw up her hands. Let's just let the novice surgeon operate on his brain while we're at it. Wet and Rylan shared a look, one layered with necessity, desperation, naive hope, and something darker. I understand what you're trying to do, Orla said after a moment, but this crosses from irresponsible into madness. What if you bring a healer to guide her? Wet offered. Oh, good, Orla scoffed. So we let the patient die with supervision. Rylan smiled faintly. The healer won't leave. Orla started. You mean he'll stay, Rylan confirmed, voluntary or otherwise. That is required. Orla dragged her hands down her face. Anyone else you bring won't grasp the situation the way you do, Wet reminded her gently. Orla nodded, rubbing her temples. You need help. Any help you can get. I understand. Yes, Rylan agreed, hope flickering. You need individualized training for recruits. Orla began pacing. You need your time freed to finalize your plans for Earth. You need solutions that border on miracles. Rylan began to look hopeful. You need more than one miracle, Orla said slowly. You need a force that can move independently, one that does not answer to the Shaper's authority. Wet stiffened. If you mean judges, I do, Orla said, eyes alight. I am a senior judge, and I can recruit others under my mandate. That would require full disclosure, Wet snapped. They'd make their own judgments. There'd be other consequences. No, Orla replied calmly. They won't. Wet turned to Rylan, alarmed. You can't allow this. Rylan was smiling now, openly and dangerous. No, he said to Orla. The world folded. Orla vanished. Wet, we will be back, Rylan said. Wet lunged, but it was too late. She was left standing alone among the glowing caverns. Her heart pounded. Had this been his intention all along? A handful of children, even empowered as they were never going to be enough. But judges? An entire foreign force, convinced they found a righteous cause? Her eyes widened as the realization settled in. What better weapon than an army that believed itself morally superior? Wet exhaled slowly. She would take Rylan up on his earlier offer when he returned. She would ask every question, and she would have all of her answers. And when the answers came, she suspected she would fear and respect him far more than she already did. Chapter 69, Advanced Course. Wet wasted no time pouting. Rylan's plans and Sanctuary's interference were variables she couldn't control, so she focused on the only thing she could, making sure the pieces she did influence were sharpened to a useful edge. She found Liz, Nina, and Beth sitting together near one of the wider hallways branching off the main camp. Wet didn't know the Earth youths well. Most of what she understood about them came from their lingering essence, the way it bent, tugged, and brushed against others, the way it danced when they were afraid. Beth sat slightly apart from the other two. She was short, brown hair pulled into a practical ponytail that never quite stayed neat, brown eyes too large for her face, and constantly flicking between Liz and Nina as if afraid of missing something important. There was an awkwardness in her posture, shoulders hunched, hands folded and unfolded in her lap, as though she wasn't entirely certain where to put herself in any given moment. Wet had noticed her watching Liz earlier when Liz demanded training from Orla. Beth had leaned forward without realizing it, eyes wide and intent. Whatever fear lived in the girl, curiosity outweighed it. Vouette smiled as a plan crystallized in her head. She approached the three with a wide, predatory grin. They noticed her too late. All three heads snapped towards her at once. Get up, Liz, Vouette called. Liz startled, then stood, her movements stiff and slow. Do you still want training? Vouette's voice was honeyed, almost kind. Liz nodded, words failing her. Fight me, then. What? Liz choked. Fight me, Bouet repeated, firmer. Liz glanced at Nina and Beth. Nina looked frozen. Beth just stared back, wide-eyed and helpless. How? Liz asked. Unless you're hiding a weapon, Bouet said pleasantly. Use your fists, your teeth, your nails, anything you'd like. Liz turned again to her friends, searching for something, instruction, reassurance, permission. When she turned back, Bouet was already airborne. The woman leapt the distance between them in a blur, hands outstretched. Liz didn't think. She reacted. Her body phased. Bouet passed through her, hit the ground hard, rolled, popped back up to her feet with fluid, terrifying grace. They spun to face each other. Bouet's smile was radiant. Her eyes danced with delight. Beth scrambled backwards, still seated. Nina struggled to her feet, too slowly. Bouet pounced again. Liz twisted aside, thinking it was a clumsy lunge, until Bouet's paw slammed into Nina's shoulder and drove her back into the rubbery floor with a sickening thud. Beth scrambled harder now, faster, more panicked. Bouet circled them, gaze fixed on Liz. I'm going to hurt one of you, she said calmly. You should probably stop me, Elizabeth. Liz's eyes went wide. This wasn't a duel, as she had assumed. Bouet lunged again before she could collect her thoughts, sweeping Liz's legs out from under her. Liz hit the ground hard. Nina tried to rise and was smashed back into the ground. Beth rolled, desperate, trying to find space. Get up, Bouet yelled, spit flying from her mouth. Beth seized the moment and tried to stand. Bouet caught her by the collar of her shirt and yanked her backwards, slamming her into the floor before she could find her balance. Liz, Bouet taunted, your friends are going to get hurt if you don't do something. Liz twisted and shot upright just in time to phase through Bouet's next strike. She saw the grin flash across Bouet's face. It was approving, no frustration at all. Nina and Beth exchanged a quiet look and nodded, barely perceptible. They scrambled in opposite directions, still clumsy. Bouet tackled Nina full body, driving her down again into the floor. Liz and Beth circled, awkward and unsure, as Bouet rose. Bouet charged through Liz, who phased on reflex, and crashed straight into Beth, sending her sprawling. Liz, Bouet called lightly as she moved away. Your friends need your help. I don't know how, Liz panted. Time to figure it out, then. Bouet threw herself into Liz with a flurry of blows. Liz danced backward, phasing wildly. The exchange was brief until Bouet hooked a low kick into Nina's shoulder and sent her crashing down once more. Bouet pressed Liz again, claws flashing. Beth tried to stand. Bouet swung, grabbed her sleeve, and threw her into Liz. Liz flinched, forgot to phase. Beth's body slammed into hers, and both went down hard. Bouet leapt, pouncing on top of them. She landed heavily and drove a punch into Beth's ribs. The impact radiated through Beth and into Liz. Both screamed. Bouet glanced down the hall. 7 other Earth students stood horrified and frozen on the edge of the brawl. Bouet smiled. She struck again, raking Liz's side with her claws, thin lines of blood appearing instantly. Then she rose and walked away as if bored. Her gaze locked onto Nina. Well, Nina? Bouet asked pleasantly. Are you going to help them? Nina hesitated only a second before scrambling to Liz's side. Blood slicked her fingers as she pressed around the cuts. Both women grimaced. Bouet watched. Minutes passed as Nina healed Liz first, then Beth. When it was done, Liz stood and stomped towards Bouet, fury blazing. What was that supposed to teach me? Bouet tilted her head. Why do you assume I was trying to teach you anything? Her eyes flicked to Nina and then back. Liz followed the look and swallowed hard. You said you wanted to learn, Bouet continued, so start practicing. She turned, spreading her arms wide to the watching students. All of you, start practicing. Fight each other. Fight me. Use your powers. When you get hurt, find Nina. Have her fix you. Her eyes landed on Nina again. The smile she gave her was far too friendly. Right, Nina? Nina nodded quickly. Get to work. And then she left them to it. Chapter 70, First Contact. Mora watched the countdown clock tick to 0. It was synchronized across the globe. Every ship, every team, every operation node currently deployed to Earth. She had overseen the contact protocols personally and selected the teams with care. 3 members per site, minimal presence, maximum control. She would have placed herself planet-side if the security doctrine allowed for it. It didn't, and it wouldn't. Until all contact parameters were confirmed, all threat vectors assessed, and all contingency models validated, Incursion Command remained shipbound. The abridged timeline for Earth left no room for ceremonial caution. They didn't make the restrictions any less irritating. Mora folded her hands behind her back and focused on the primary feed. As the final seconds fell away, spatial rifts opened simultaneously in the centers of political power across the world. Executive chambers, war rooms, royal halls, subterranean bunkers hardened against nuclear fire and foreign infiltration. Her team materialized inside the White House war room. Venrian stood at the center, flanked by Selpish and Yalar. Mora exhaled slowly as Selpish's posture betrayed a fraction of barely perceptible too present. Weapons came up immediately. Secret Service agents moved with admirable speed, bodies interposing themselves between the intruders and the president. A handful of military officers shouted conflicting orders. Someone tripped over a chair. Yalar waited. He always waited. Please, he said at last, his voice calm, measured, and resonant in a way that felt intentional. Stay down. We are not your enemy. We are here in the spirit of assistance, transparency, and cooperation. Mora watched. Heart rates dropped on her secondary display. The words were simple. The delivery was not. We represent an interstellar humanitarian organization known across many worlds as the Shapers, Yalar continued. Our purpose is the preservation of life, stabilization of failing systems, and peaceful advancement of civilizations approaching existential thresholds. A few guns lowered, not all. Right now, Yalar said gently, we are disabling nuclear, biological, chemical, and other mass casualty weapons across the globe, not as an act of aggression, but as a protective measure, much as emergency responders would secure a disaster site before rendering aid. Mora grimaced as a red alert pulsed on the edge of her vision. 4 other teams had experienced weaponed retaliation upon incursion. Sloppy. We intervene only when a world approaches self-inflicted collapse, Yalar went on. War, ecological failure, uncontrolled technological escalation, patterns we have seen before, patterns we exist to interrupt. He gestured, and Venrian placed a matte black cube on the floor between them. This device is a secure interface, Yalar explained. A channel. Through it, your leaders may access verified information, consult with our systems, request aid, and schedule direct dialogue with Shaper representatives. Mora allowed herself a thin smile. They would move it, scan it, lock it away, debate whether it was spying. It was, but that hardly mattered. In 30 days, Yalar said, our presence will be revealed to the people of Earth. We believe honesty, when delivered with care, is the foundation of trust. Our teams will appear openly to assist with disasters, infrastructure failures, medical crises, and education. Education, Mora noted the word. You will see reductions in violence, disease, and scarcity, Yalar promised. You will receive technologies and training appropriate for your stage of development. Power will shift. Systems will change. That is unavoidable. But our goal is partnership, not domination. He paused just long enough for the words to land. Some of you will resist us. That, too, is inevitable. We ask only that you act in good faith, for the safety of your people and ours. Another alert flashed in Mora's peripheral. Medical teams deployed to Northern Europe for a cardiac arrest event. Mora exhaled through her nose. The cost of haste, she thought to herself. Recall in 10, she transmitted worldwide. Yalar inclined his head. We thank you for your composure under extraordinary circumstances. Use the interface wisely, and we will speak again. His team vanished. Mora reviewed the aftermath in silence as feeds from around the world stabilized, panic, shock, arguments already forming, negotiations being planned. They thought they had leverage. Good. System, Mora said as she turned towards the bridge. Flag all footage of Acolyte Selpish. Minimize visible enthusiasm. No formal reprimand. I will address her personally. Affirmative. Mora straightened her uniform. Earth believed it had just met saviors. The Shapers knew better. And somewhere beneath the noise and the countdowns and the propaganda, the first real complications were already unfolding. Thank you for listening to 10,000 Worlds, written and read by Weston Gill. That's me. I first publish each chapter on my YouTube channel at Venture Saga. If you're interested in skipping ahead and beating the podcast crowd, I recommend checking out my YouTube and subscribing. I also post other short stories there. Thank you.